Good afternoon,
Hi,
Dr.
Dr.
Alicia.
Nuru. First
Yeah,
time meeting you.
okay.
So you're from
Nice to
Penang?
meet you. Yes, I am from Penang campus, Edu
Oh,
Penang campus,
so the
uh,
one at Georgetown or Batu Kawan?
Patukawan.
Ah, I see. All
Yeah,
right.
I'm lecturer from Department of Computing.
Oh, I see. All right. Nice meeting you.
Yeah.
So I think we will wait a little bit more, all right, maybe a couple of minutes for the rest to join us today.
Yes, of course. Yes,
Have you had your lunch?
yes, I just took some couple of minutes.
Hi, Melissa. Hello.
Hello, hi, afternoon.
You're from SCCM from UG here, right?
Yeah.
I see. All right. Hi. So, Dr. Nuru, how long have you joined the Batu Kawan campus?
I was recently joined here, so since May 2024, I'm working here.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. So,
I am from India, foreigner spouse.
wow,
I married here, and
far away from home.
Tamil
And
Nadu.
oh, okay. Kathmandu. Yeah, I heard of that place before. Never been there, but yeah, heard before. And Melissa, how about you? You just joined not too long ago?
Yeah, I joined in September this year. Very
All
fresh,
right.
very fresh.
Very fresh, but maybe you have a very long teaching experience.
Oh, my first. This is my first.
Oh, okay, okay, all right. We
This
learn
is
from
my
each.
first.
All right.
Mm.
I would say we learn from each other lah. Hello, Dr.
Mm.
Satish.
Dr. Satish.
Yeah, I think you are muted, Dr. Satish.
Sorry, I'm late,
It's
Alicia.
no worries, no worries. I haven't started yet. It's a Friday anyway, and I know that you are very busy with a lot of meetings going on. Okay, all right. So, okay then. So I think I will just start for today's session. So welcome to the last session of this ACiD trip, which is on blended learning. Okay, so just let me share my screen. Oh, before that, yeah, just to introduce a little bit about myself. Maybe some of you have not met me before. So I'm Alicia. So I'm from the Teaching and Learning Center here at Metropolis Glam Area Selangor campus. All right. So nice meeting all of you. All right. Just let me share my screen. Okay. I hope that you can see my screen well. Okie dokie.
Yes, we can see your screen.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Satish. All right. So today's session is on blended learning. So what we're going to learn together is on the key concept and the benefit of this blended learning, as well as some tips, all right, and also some technology tools that can help us to engage students in this blended learning environment. And lastly, all right, we would identify some of the common challenges, all right, that with these blended learning practices or implementation. So before we start this session, all right, I would just like to gather some feedback from all of you, all right? So have you used blended learning for your course before? So you can scan this QR code and let me know. Wow, all right. I have one participant here that talk about yes. Another one is not yet, but interested in trying it out. Okay. So we have 50-50 over here. Okay, so maybe some of you may have some technological difficulty in like getting through this poll. That is fine. All right, no worries about that. Okay, so my next question would be, when you think of blended learning, what is the first word that comes to mind? So what is the first word that comes to mind when you heard about, probably you have heard of this blended learning before, and or maybe you have not. So what is the first thing that comes to your mind? Engaging, interactive, all right. Okay, so we see another engaging over here. Technology, all right, and education. Okay, that's great. Mix of online and traditional. Okay, so that's something that I would like to see. All right, but thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and your feedback on this blended learning. Okay, all right, so that's right. Okay, so generally blended learning is a method, all right, or defined as a teaching that integrates technology and digital media together with a traditional face-to-face classroom activities. So the main objective of this blended learning is to give students more freedom to customize their learning experiences. All right. So in short, this definition means of a mixed mode of online as well as a traditional face-to-face teaching activities. However, this is the definition of a late 90s, but moving forward as of right now with all the technology going on and also technology as part of our life, all right? So blended learning nowadays is not just only limited to online learning, like online learning tools, for example, like watching videos or maybe listening to podcasts, and also incorporated with a traditional teaching face-to-face session, but it also meant about the combination of different strategies in teaching and learning in your class, all right? So the main objective, all right, for here, I mean, right now in this era, is much more to support the engagement as what you have share your thought before, and also to help with the contribution of the student success, not only in academic, but also in their future job market. So this is what blended learning mean in this era, all right? So it's not, just to recap, it's not just only limited online and traditional teaching, but we also incorporate other teaching and learning activities in the class as well, apart from the online learning tools. Okay, so just to give you some of the history of this blended learning, in fact, this blended learning actually, I mean, the ideology of this started in 1840, so it's like way of decades back, where it's launched by this guy called Isaac Pittman, where during this era or this time, all the instruction materials were sent to the student, okay, so that they don't have to come to class physically. And this laid the foundation of the distance learning. Yeah. So moving forward to 1960 and 1970s, all right, we are gradually shifted, all right, from printed materials, all right, to technology. So training were given, all right, with technology integrated, so that it's much more interactive and interesting. And next, moving on to 1970s to 1980s. I'm not sure about how many of you actually experience this, especially in Malaysia. We have something called TV Pendidikan, where instructors do not have to be in class to give any lessons, but they just have to do it remotely. And so that students were able to also chat and interact with other peers. So this is the first creation of this training program, all right, where students can chat with each other. Yeah. And moving on forward to 1980s and 1990s, all right. So institutions started to use this CD-ROM, all right, to provide a much more interactive learning activities. And this is also the type where the learning management system start to develop. Yeah. And moving forward to 1998, so we witnessed, all right, the starting of the use of the web-based learning, which is the internet, where students can get access to resources. And finally, from 2000 until today, this is the time where institutions started to implement a combination of online learning as well as a traditional way of learning, all right, in institution. So this is a history, all right, of how blended learning has evolved from 1840s until today. So as I mentioned that in the past, all right, blended learning is integration of the online tools, because we would like to make the learning much more interactive and engaging. But right now, with the technology as part of our daily life, how we can actually implement this approach to help with our teaching and learning activities with the student in the classroom. So why is this blended learning is important? So first of all, it boosts the effectiveness of education. So as what you all can see on the second question that I have asked you all, that what's the first word that comes to you is about engaging, interactive with the learners, as well as to increase the access and convenience. So with the mobile phone, laptop, iPad going around, so that students can access to the materials anytime, anywhere. And also like some of the students, especially for those students who take this open distance learning, yeah, they may have some commitment with work, with family, so that they need this kind of learning. And lastly is the change in learning behavior of the students, which I will talk about this later on, and also the constantly evolving environment that we live in, for example, like the COVID-19, and we do not know what is coming up next. So ultimately, the goal of this blended learning is to provide a much more efficient and effective learning environment for the students, so that they are not only equipped with the knowledge, but also the skills needed to be competitive in the future job market. So with this blended learning, yeah, I will talk more about what are the activities that can be done. But generally, with this blended learning, we can help to cultivate critical thinking skills, as well as self-regulation, which is very important for the students in the future when they work. So what are the driving factors of blended learning here in Malaysia? Yeah. So first of all, it's about this Malaysian education blueprint. All right. So it's going to end in next year. So we are still waiting what's coming up next. But here are the 10 key shifts of this Malaysia education blueprint. And you can see that one of the key of this Malaysian education blueprint is to cultivate nation of lifelong learners, as well as to globalize the online learning. This is one of the factors that drive blended learning over here in Malaysia. And next is on the IR 4.0, which is industrial revolution. revaluation. All right. So with this, it also enhances the flexibility and also the accessibility of technology. All right. In using technology so that students are much more able to do this blended learning. And next, of course, the COVID-19 also drive, all right, blended learning in Malaysia. So from what I can recall from Hazim and Gabriel, that during that time they were working on this open learning and everything have to be online because the students can't possibly waiting at home and not learning anything. So this also drive the factors of blended learning in Malaysia. And next would be on our clientele or our students. I believe that most of the students that most of you all that you are facing are from Generation Z and also Gen Alpha. All right, just a second, yeah. Okay, yeah, I think this is better. Okay, sorry for that. Okay, yeah. So for this generation, yeah, so they have a different thinking, different learning behavior, and you can see that what they like and the music that they're listening is also different, yeah. So you can see their education preference or learning preference for Generation Z is on multimodal. Multimodal means that they prefer like a different learning strategies. For example, like using visual, using like podcasts, and also some hands-on to help them with their learning experience. And these are the Generation Z are the one that grew up with smartphone and internet. So to them, technology is something like a necessity. And for Gen Alpha, all right, so for those that are born in 2010 to 2024, so they prefer virtual learning and they are the one that learn things through YouTube as well as like from learning platform, and they prefer like gamified learning, which can give them entertainment as well while they are learning. So these are some of the reasons that drive blended learning in Malaysia for now. So what are the advantages of this blended learning programs? So as I mentioned about previously about to increase the student engagement, also part of this method of this blended learning is the flipping the classroom that help to improve the comprehension of the students. Of course, for this, it really depends on the maturity of your students, because some students there would really appreciate when they can gain the self-confidence in class when teacher having like discussion or forum, so that they know that they can understand. So it actually can increase the confidence, but some students they may not, all right, appreciate this. And next would be on students have more autonomy over their learning because they can learn anytime, anywhere, all right? And lastly is on the instructor, so that if you are using some interactive tools that can help you to track the progress of the students, as well as help you with the automatic grading, so that it actually save a lot of your time and you can use this time to create a much more innovative ideas in your teaching in the class. So generally in UW Malaysia, all right, so we would like to encourage our lecturers to have this minimum percentage of this online delivery or blended learning in your class. So if your course is a much more theoretical course, so we would recommend that a minimum of 30% of the content hours to be blended, either synchronous or asynchronous. So synchronous means that face-to-face or even like online, like what we are doing right now, or even like in a classroom setting. And asynchronous means that something that students do by themselves, yeah, like online learning when they go to open learning, they learn the content by themselves, and or maybe some activities that you would like them to do. So this is known as asynchronous. As for those subjects that is related with much more practical, we encourage or recommend a minimum 20% of content hours. So the reason why this is lesser than theoretical, because for example, like from culinary school, maybe you need the students to hands-on much more, so that is why the less percentage for this part. So I'll give an example like how this work, all right? So for example, you have like chapter 1, you do it like face-to-face in a traditional setting. And then for the second chapter, you also will be still doing this face-to-face. Then on the third chapter, when you feel that your students are ready, all right, or maybe there are some certain very complex concept that is good that students learn by themselves first. Of course, this depends on your judgment, yeah. So you can do a flipped classroom on chapter 3, like there won't be any classes on that day, but students were to study on their own, all right, so this is known as a flipped classroom. And then they may take a Kahoot test, all right, on the next day, all right, to test on their understanding. And then maybe the next round or the next class, all right, you may have consultation after you see how is their progress from the test that they have done online, all right. So this is some of the example that how this blended learning can be done in your class. So let's move on to the concept and practices. So yeah, of course, we were never able to run away from OBE. So OBE stands for outcome-based education, and I hope that everyone still remember about what is this all about. So in Malaysia, the center attention of this education is much more on the student learning outcome, and what actually contribute to this is the curriculum design, the assessment, which I believe Gabriel has shared with you. But the core success, all right, that contribute to this student learning outcome, of course, is the teaching and learning. So just to give a little definition about what teaching is. So teaching is about giving lessons as what we are doing, right? So we are sharing our knowledge to a group of students. But as you can see on the comic that I have shared with you on the screen, that how can we ensure that the students actually learn from what we share? Yeah. So learning is gaining knowledge by either studying by themselves, being taught, and experiencing. So experiencing over here plays a very important role, as we believe that with hands-on, you can retain the information better. And with this, I believe Gabriel did mention before during OBE that it's better to use more senses or more stimuli in order to engage with the student, also help the student to have a better learning experience. And for this generation, the main stimulus or stimuli is actually technology, all right? So in a traditional classroom, all right, so learning can only be done with the presence of teachers and also a physical classroom, and the teachers, all right, or the instructor are seen as the central importance to the learner, or in other words, they are the omnipotent source, all right. So the teacher plays a very important role in giving the knowledge and content, and that is the reason why sometimes we can hear about like why lecturers or instructor are not getting respect is because for now they can get like knowledge or information from online and also internet resources. So this is one of the reasons maybe, all right, that why teachers are getting lack of respect nowadays. So with this blended learning, all right, we can give the learners or our students the experience of learning outside the normal classroom learning, which means that they are not just only hearing whatever that we preach, all right, but we also incorporate other activities like such as like case study or maybe field trips. So these are something different, how to say, a different learning or teaching strategy for the students, so that this learning does not end in classroom, and we also give a variety of learning experiences to the students so that they can grasp the concept better, all right? And this blended learning, we are also planning, all right, to cultivate our student to be a much more independent learner, so that it's in accordance with the Malaysian blueprint of to cultivate a nation of lifelong learning, so that they will still continue to learn after they graduate, or maybe even before graduation, they will still learn on the things that they are passionate with. So this is a general conceptual framework of blended learning, as they believe that learning is effective when there's a interaction, all right, either physical or virtual, all right, between the students and the instructor via self-managed learning, or face-to-face learning, or maybe online learning, yeah. But however, as you can see, this framework is actually taken from Abdullah et al., all right, in year 2003, and now it's already like 2024. So who knows that there might be other elements that can contribute to blended learning, maybe AI, all right? So we are still like in unknown, yeah, to what to be included in this blended learning, all right? And there are some research that have been done in to find out what are the factors that contribute to the quality of learning in students. So the outcome of this research is that the course material presentation is very important in contributing the quality of learning, as well as the student perception of the teaching learning environment, and also the teaching learning environment provided. So with this, the blended learning actually fit in, all right, the fact that students have different learning needs and preferences, yeah. So it also encourage the student to learn in an interactive and collaborative environment, because you are incorporate different activities and not just only online or just a face-to-face, like a one-way teaching. And with those online material that you put on, like LMS, or like for example, for now it's open learning, yeah. So the students can learn at their own pace, at their own time, because different students have a different pace in like understanding your work. So it's important that there are some materials that students can go on their own pace to understand the concept or your subject much more. So what is the role of teacher, all right, in this technology integration, especially in this era, yeah? So instead of a knowledge provider that we always just give the content, now our role is to change, all right, into a coach and mentor, or in other words, a facilitator. So with this technology integration, it's very important that the instructor to provide, all right, a balance of this online instruction learnings and online materials, all right, so that the students are given opportunities, all right, to learn at their own pace with the online materials that you have placed on LMS, and also to provide a safe space for the students to learn, so that they won't get judged on their understanding, and also help them to get motivated when they understand what the subject is all about. And of course, all to give this a holistic learning experience to the student, a personal human touch is very important. For example, like giving caring or compassion guidance to the student. On the other hand, the role of learner, all right, so which means the student, okay, in this technology integration, of course, certainly not all students appreciate this blended learning model because of how they are being brought up, and also the culture, yeah. So in this blended learning, of course, students are encouraged to be less passive and more active participation in order to get the benefits, all right, of this blended learning process. And as I've mentioned just now, that this blended learning, all right, the main thing is to help the students, all right, to be an independent learner, all right. So in this context, students is at the center of learning, but not the teacher. And this may cause some of the unrealistic expectation, because like if there's no physical class, you will expect to do a flipped classroom. So some of the students may think that, oh, so less class, maybe there's less work, but in fact it's not, because students need to work harder, all right, in order to understand and to gain knowledge, all right. So it's very important that instructor, yeah, or the facilitator to manage the learner's expectation, which means to provide a clear guidance, all right, and also in communicating with the students. So to implement this blended learning, yeah, so now it's all about the concept and practices. So there's this framework called the TPACK, all right, that emphasize on these three elements in order to have a good quality of teaching in blended learning, which is the content, all right, the pedagogy, and the technology. So this framework is a class of knowledge that is central to the teacher's work with technology, yeah. So in order to have a good quality of teaching, of course, first of all, the content is very important. I believe that all of you have expertise in your area, all right, so that you can give a better concept and idea to the students or clear their doubts. And also pedagogy, what are the strategy or activities that you will like to conduct in your class to engage with the students and also to facilitate their learning experience. And lastly, the technology knowledge. Yeah. So for technology knowledge, of course, there's never ending, yeah, because there's always something new coming up. And what are the interactive tools that you would like to use, all right, so that you can make the learning or maybe the materials are easily accessible and also interesting. So for this TPACK framework, yeah, it emphasizes much more on hands-on, all right, so rather than, so it's much more less on traditional teaching, so which means that you use much more of interactive tools or maybe online materials. I would talk more about these blended learning models or strategies later on, yeah. So to the end of the day, the learners will take control of their learning, all right. And with this model, we talk about the role of instructor is much more a facilitator and problem-solving expert rather than a content expert that you were just giving out knowledge where student already can get the information from online. So over here, I will share with you some of the models of blended learning. All right, so there's 5 over here. So the first is rotation model. So I believe maybe some of you have already like doing this in class. So rotation model means that there's a structure way of online and also in person, that means face-to-face teaching. Yeah. So what happened is that teacher will teach the concept in the class, and after that, they may have to do some assessment or maybe some homework on the online platform. So this is called rotation model. Next is the flex model. So flex model, online learning is the backbone of student learning. That means everything is conducted online. And with this, the instructor would be able to give a much more personalized guidance, because when students have problems, then they will email them, so that is a much more personalized support for the students. Next is on a la carte model. So a la carte is just like the menu, you just pick whatever that you want. So for this a la carte model is like students for a program, right? There's a lot of courses. So students are free to choose which course they would like to do it online. Okay. And the next one is on enriched virtual model. So this is the original ODL model. Yeah. So where teaching is being done online at home, all right? That means online learning, but require this face-to-face learning, which means that like maybe in a month or maybe in 2 weeks' time, you have to come for a physical class for a deeper discussion or some hands-on training. And last would be the flipped classroom model. So this flipped classroom model is a reverse of the traditional classroom, because in a traditional classroom, teacher is the one that giving the content, but over here is a reverse, all right? So student will engage with a new content at home. And then when they come to class, it's either that, as just like what I mentioned, maybe they will do a Kahoot test, or maybe they will have a group discussion or a forum. So this model enables teacher to use class time for more than delivering the traditional lectures. So this is a flipped classroom model. So in a summary, all right, for all this model, okay. So for rotation model, yeah, the student control on their learning is moderate, yeah, because you still have a facilitator over there to guide you on what you need to do. As for flex model, the student control in their learning is high, because students need to be very disciplined and they need to progress at their own pace, and teacher will be there just to give support, all right? As for a la carte model, student control on their learning is also high, because they have to choose whatever courses they feel that they want to do it online. And the role of facilitator or instructor is to guide the course selection. And next is on the enriched virtual model. So student control on their learning is still moderate, because they still need to come for physical class to for some deeper, discussion or some hands-on, yeah. And last, on the flipped classroom is the same as well, all right, because lecturer will still be there for face-to-face learning, all right. All right, on this, the next topic for today is on designing a blended learning course. Actually, we are working with UOW Australia in coming up a course on this, yeah, but we are still working on it as there's a migration from open learning to CAMU. So we are planning on how to integrate this into the new system. But for now, I will just give a very brief description on this so that you will have a better understanding and also an idea when we finally launch this course. So expected the launching of this course would be the first quarter, end of the first quarter next year. All right. So we will announce to everyone so that if you're interested in designing, to get a much more better view of how to design a blended learning course, then you can take this course, right? So when we design or want to start, okay, to plan, all right, blended learning for your course, it's important that you know what is the program learning outcomes, all right, and the course learning outcome should be aligned with your program learning outcome. And also, what is the session objective? You need to give a very clear guidance to the student, all right, on the direction so that they know what to expect. And also, what are the summative and formative assessment for that particular session? And also what should be synchronous, which one should be asynchronous, and what are the materials as well as the activities to engage with the learner. So these are some of the few things that you have to think about before you start to design a blended learning for your course. So an example over here for a synchronous delivery, all right? Let's say you would like to have this asynchronous session with your students so that they have to do things, at their home or at their own pace. So very important that we have to identify what is the lesson learning outcome. For example, like you decided that for chapter 4, you would want to do a blended learning, all right? And next would be, it's important to determine what goal need to be achieved, all right? Like after completion of certain assessment or certain readings. So it needs to be very clear, all right? And also what are the available resources? Like for example, maybe they need to read a YouTube video. Is it like available? And also some of the papers, is it like accessible by the students? And teaching and learning activities, which is very important because what are the activities that you will want a student to do? Like for example, maybe they would need to do a quizy or Kahoot and so on and so forth. And also formative assessment plays a very important role in blended learning because we may not know how far the student go with just by watching a video or maybe reading an article, all right? So these are some of the examples on how you can plan for your asynchronous session with your students. And generally as a whole, yeah, it's very important that, but of course this is just a guide and it really depends on your course, all right? And also your learner. So the lecturer generally should break down the whole lesson into multiple segments where each segment consists of a mini lecture of 10 to 15 minutes. Because generally our brain couldn't like function so long, okay? And it's good to have this active learning activity, which means it can be something like a formative assessment so that we will know the understanding of the student, if they understand what we have shared with them. So this is a guide, all right, on how you can plan your classes for blended learning. And for asynchronous classes, so go back a little bit on what I have shared just now, yeah. So when they are doing this asynchronous activity, of course, you may not know how, if they are doing it or not, all right? So some of the acceptable indicators of attendance, all right, because for asynchronous classes means that there's no physical class where they need to do something on their own. So this can be used as a indication of a student attendance, for example, like completion of online class activity, tests, quizzes, or maybe submit the academic assignment, or maybe posting online discussion forum in open learning. So it's very important to note that student engagement or participation in an online task should be seen as equal or more important than just logging in without participation. So sometimes students can just come to your class looking at you and seeing you teaching, but as just what I've shared on the comic strip just now, that we may not know if they actually understand what we have taught. So this is some of the way that we can see how on the understanding of the student as well as their participation on the class activity. So some tips, all right, for this to implement this blended learning in your class. So first of all, it's important to know your target audience, which is your students. Yeah. So if let's say your students are mainly like diploma level, so maybe a flipped classroom may not be the best for them because they may not be ready for like the first year, first semester. So it's very important to know what is their comfort level on using all these technology tools and if they know how to use, because I did come across like some students that really, I mean, do not know, all right, on how to get onto this. So it's important to actually guide them on this. And next is on the skills and content that you have planned for this blended learning. Does it require like interaction with instructor, for example, like if going for a field trip or maybe like doing some reading? So does it need an instructor to come along, or is this content best learned in a self-paced environment because different students have different pace in understanding, all right, in a learning environment? Next is on the technical resources. So about the suitability or the adaptability of the learning materials that you will be sharing with your students, as well as the learning management system platform, for example, Open Learning, does it support the format? And next is on personnel resources. Yeah, do you need like someone like maybe a tutor to help you with this, and also ISD support? And lastly is on the time constraint. I know that to plan for a blended learning for your course, sometimes it may take some time, especially on the technical part where you want to put in like some online materials and also to design on this what do you call that, the layout, all right, of your page. Okay, so that is why we will have this designing blended learning course rolling out end of next first quarter. All right. So next, I will move on to these technology tools for blended learning. Yeah, I believe some of you also have been using this in your class already. So previously, I mean, like most of y'all know that we will be migrating from Open Learning to Camel. So with this, there's also like some training will be provided on how to use this Camel on like for your courses. And for digital content creation tools, so there's certain some of things that you may want to explore, such as like Canva, Powtoon, and Prezi. So for Prezi, I've attended a training by one of our ex-colleague over here on Prezi, which is like a you can make it as a video, all right? So you record it yourself, and then in between you can put in some formative assessment like MCQ for students to answer, and it also have a progress tracking to know that if students answer correctly or not. So Prezi is something that I would strongly recommend if you are interested in digital content creation. And of course, virtual classroom, we can use like MS Team as what we are using right now. And for online assessment too, there's like Quizy, Kahoot, and much, much more. And it's very important, as I mentioned just now, that formative assessment to get to know what is the student understanding of your subject or your topic. And exam.net, all right, we will be, I think we are going, as we are migrating to Camel, so I think exam.net going to be part of our online assessment tool over here at UW Malaysia. And some of the teaching, I mean, or some learning activities that you can do with your students in a blended learning mode, all right? So here are some of the examples. So first of all is on active learning, yeah. So active learning is important for students, especially when you want them to understand some concept instead of just like sitting down and listen passively to you, but you would like to check on their understanding, so you can do something called active learning. So some of the example of this active learning is called think, pair, and share. So students can think about this question individually, or they can read online materials that you have posted in open learning, right? And then discuss it with a partner, so there is a pair, and then after that they share their findings with the group. So this is known as a think, pair, share. And next is on case study. All right, so using real world scenarios to allow students to apply concept and think critically. And I have an honor to go into one of our colleagues' class where she started her class with a case study and have the students to find out the answer while she was teaching the specific topic. So I feel that this is something that can engage a student throughout the class, because they would like to find out what is the answer for that particular case study. And next, of course, on role playing, so that student is not just like sitting on their own place, but they get like some role playing to get on what is the real scenario to understand in a different perspective. So with this hands-on experience, students would be able to retain the information better rather than just sitting and listening to you. So next is on using multimedia. I believe most of you have used like video or podcasts for to allow students to have a better understanding on some complex scenarios or concept. So videos, all right. Some research has shown that the engagement time for videos shouldn't be more than 6 minutes. Yeah, because after 6 minutes, student will not be able to engage with the video and even to understand and to watch till the very end. All right. But of course, if you're doing a flipped classroom, then maybe student may have enough of time to watch the whole video, and you can have some assessment to gauge the student understanding. And for podcast is one of those multimedia that can help with engagement. All right. And lastly is on interactive simulation. So I think this one would much depend on respective school and also your course. And next is on gamification. So as I have mentioned, on this generation, there are much more gamified person where they need some entertainment while learning. So also I have attended one of our colleagues talk on this gamification. So what she did is I think she used Quizzy as part of this gamification, where students can gain points and to know how is their ranking. So this would actually can motivate and engage the students, but of course it depends on the group of students, because some students that may feel like uncomfortable seeing that he cannot perform well. So it's very important to know that what group of learners that you have. All right. So example for gamification would be like quizzes. So example that I've mentioned to you is like Quizzy, all right? And also like achievement and some progress tracking that you can use to motivate and engage your student. The next is on a collaborative learning. So where students work together in a small group to complete tasks or project, so allowing them to learn from each other. So example would be like they research a topic together and also to present it, or maybe they give a constructive feedback on each other's work, which I have also seen one of our colleagues actually implemented this in her class. And also always discussion group, all right, in small group can actually help with their critical thinking and not just sitting and listening to you. So we actually have this our colleague that have shared on the technology tools or maybe ways to have a better engagement with the student. All right. So because today I cannot like cover like everything, so I would like to invite you actually to go to this Discovery Circle workshop, which is available at YouTube, or you can scan this QR code. So over here, you can see all the workshops that have been conducted by by our colleagues, and about the sharing on how they use this tool in their classes. So for example, over here, like Miss Sumiko from Penang, she shared about like using AI tools in classes. And also, if you want to know much more about this classes, yeah, so there's also this workshop conducted for this flipped classroom, as well as some AI tools that have shared by Miss Idora lately, early of this year. So I do encourage all of you like to go into our Discovery Circle workshop to have a look on what other practices or technology tools that our colleagues have used. So last but not least will be on the challenges, all right, on blended learning. So some of the common challenges in blended learning is on the student engagement and motivation. As I have mentioned earlier, that due to different brought up and also different culture, some students, they may not be so keen on this blended learning. They might be still wanted to have this traditional face-to-face teaching, where they will just grasp the knowledge from the instructor. But because of the shift, all right, of the reality right now, all right, so it's important that during our classes that we will use like some interactive tools like quizzes, games. Of course, this is just to engage with the student, but the real meaning behind is actually to foster the critical thinking and to help the student to engage more in their topic or in your course. And of course, to balancing online and in-person component, it may take some time to plan out your teaching strategy, all right? And a student may feel like overwhelmed when they have to do this by themselves, or if they need to read like some articles or to understand some concept by themselves, they may not feel comfortable. So which is why planning a well-structured course that clearly outline the expectation of both components is very important. And also giving feedback to the students so that they know that what is their progress and what they should be doing is very important in blended learning. And some of the best practices in blended learning include like to create a clear course design and structure. So it's just like watching a movie, or maybe a series where they will tell you what happened in the previous episode, and then you will show what is going on, and then you can and also talk about the next sequel. So students may have an anticipation on what is coming up next, and also to understand how they can link what they have learned from the previous chapter with the current topic that you were talking about, all right? And also you can encourage reflection and self-assessment in students, yeah? So it's very important. I mean, most of the times, at times we will just wanted to finish the whole course, and sometimes we lack of like giving some time or gap for the students to actually reflect on what they have learned, and if they understand the specific topic. So some example of reflection and self-assessment that can be done is like online journals, surveys, or e-portfolio that can help to track their progress and also reflect on their experiences for your course. So if you are interested on this online delivery and assessment, all right, so TLC actually have created this document, all right, to guide you on giving online, how to say, online teaching, all right. So you can scan this QR code, or you can find this at our UW SharePoint. So my last slide for today, all right, is to share with you a quote by John Dewey, who is education reformer in the 50s. that he talked about, if we teach today's students as we taught yesterday, we rob them of tomorrow. So it's very important that we reflect our teaching practices so that we do not only just to prepare the students for today, but also to prepare them for the future. All right. So that's all from me. Do you all have any questions or things to share that you have implemented this blended learning?
Alicia, I think one of the things that I've used is Kahoot. And one of the good things about Kahoot is actually there is a library of resources as well, which I actually find very useful, especially when you want to do the questions and so on, right? And Kahoot actually allows you to download download the questions and share the questions, right? And also edit and modify it accordingly. So having those questions sort of saves you some time, because you're just not recreating it, or because Kahoot is a different system, instead of putting it in there, right? It can be time consuming. So I personally found that I find it very, very useful using Kahoot. And I think one of the things that I like is also, I think this generation is also a lot about appreciation, like they want to be recognized, they want to be right. So that element needs to be. So Kahoot has got this thing where if you the top winners, right, you have like sort of a podium, and then their names go there, right? There's like a that whole thing. I notice that whenever I do that, there's a lot of interest, and then the next round I see more students are joining in. So highly recommend Kahoot. I mean, that's a personal experience. Yeah.
I see. So you have a group of a very positive mindset students
Yes.
in learning. All right, all right. Thank you for sharing, Dr. Satish.
Hi, Dr. Prem here.
Hi, Dr. Prem.
Yeah, Dr. Satish, can I use Kahoot for law?
Yes, you can, Prem, because it has because you go in and it's by different disciplines. You can actually go in and see. Yes,
Okay.
yes.
I'll
It's a
explore.
great platform, actually. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
need to explore.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
All right. Thanks for sharing, Dr. Satish. So anyone here who would like to share, or if you have any questions? All right. So if there's no question, I think that's a wrap up of all this ACiD trip session. All right. So I hope that as I mentioned, it's much more sharing because we are learning from each other still. So all the best to all of you, and yep, we will see each other again.
Thank
Right.
you, Alicia.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Dr.
everyone.
Alicia. Thank you so
Have a
much.
good
Okay, thank
weekend.
you,
All
Thank you.
right. You too. Bye.